Welcome back to the Carry Handle Podcast. With me is, as always, is Kevin, who is eating a Slim Jim. I told Kevin
What?
because he was like,
A
if
Slim
you'll
Jim?
offer a Slim Jim, wait, I'm
No,
sorry,
no,
it's
no,
a
no, no, no.
Twizzler.
Whoa, 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 whoa. It's a
Twizzler.
Twizzler, you
I'm so sorry.
absolute goob.
I told him I wouldn't eat it unless it was black licorice because I
Yeah.
don't like regular
Ugh.
Twizzlers. So you
Ugh.
can suffer with that information while I play Friends of the Channel.
We want to take this time to thank friends of the channel who provided us 10% discount codes for our listeners. That's you, and we don't get kickbacks. First is Hammy 3D Prints, thousands of products for firearm storage and other fun stuff too. Code CarryHandle10. Eastern Shore Sling Company, handmade rifle slings and custom sewing, dog leashes too. Code CarryHandle. 19 Charlie Tactical, gunsmithing, Kydex holsters, thousands of dropship gun parts, accessories, tools, firearms. Code TheCarryHandle10. And lastly, I want to thank myself for all the scheduling and all the shenanigans I deal with daily. Thank you, Hannah.
Yes, of course. Always thank you, Hannah. Kevin, how are you on this lovely Sunday that we are meeting once again?
I am well and lovely on this Sunday that we meet once again, Bryce.
Excellent. Would you like to introduce our guest,
Maybe we
our
should do it
returning guest?
together at the
We
count
should
of
we should do it
three.
together. Okay. It's Hilton Yam. Hilton Yam's back. Hi. Hello, Hilton Yam.
Hey
Thank you
You
for
guys.
coming
count
back.
really fast.
Well, I
You
was
do not do
wondering
that
if
at
it
all.
was going to be, is it one, two, then go, or one, two, three, then go? You guys didn't work that out
Well, he
beforehand.
didn't say it out loud. He just said count, and I
I
did it. He just didn't hear it. It's
okay.
not. It's
Well,
not
that's
like
fair.
I
That's
won't
fair.
it's
sidebar for too
technicality,
long,
right?
but I did run into someone at work that did 3, 2, 1, and it threw me for a complete loop.
Criminal.
I was like, "What
See,
are you
you
doing?"
got, yeah, you got to pre-coordinate all this stuff.
Yep, it's true. That's how you know somebody or you don't know somebody. You know when to go. Well, so Mr. Hilton Yam, would you mind giving people that may not know who you are just a quick introduction, and then we can kind of get into the meat and potatoes, if you will.
Okay. I am a multi-time guest of the Carry Handle podcast, and that is my greatest claim to fame. And
I
then
agree.
and we can cut now. That's it. That's all we got.
That was
No,
it. That
I am
was the
a,
Okay, we
goal.
got it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a retired FBI agent. I was on SWAT for most of my career, and during that time, we used 1911s a whole lot. I started shooting 1911s in the 80s as a wee child, shooting IPSC in USPSA, and somewhere in between all of that, I started a company, 10A Performance, 25 years ago, 25 years. It's the anniversary this year of my time as a professional 1911 industry individual. So, yeah, here I am.
That's pretty cool. So, are you primarily shooting
Wow.
1911s nowadays, or are you kind of interchanging what you're shooting? Because I mean, you do a lot of Patreon stuff, but not as
Mhm.
much as public anymore, so people may not know.
Right, right. That's right. Yeah, YouTube in their algorithmic wisdom pretty much deplatformed me and many others in the industry as well. Some people went to
Hmm.
Rumble. Unfortunately, as much as conceptually I like Rumble, again, conceptually with large font, italics, and all that, it is difficult to work with because they have less than 1% statistically the viewership and reach of YouTube. So while you may
Interesting.
be very free to express yourself, I mean, they even have a tab for your categories in Rumble for firearms. So that they're
Wow.
cool. They're cool with our
That's cool.
community being there. But again, with only 1% of the reach, and ultimately, Bryce, as you're mentioning, the doing all those videos, the reviews, it really, especially for the way my business was shaped and being in such a micro niche of the industry, it really didn't work out. So I took that as a sign that, getting deplatformed to stick to my strengths. And Patreon has been a fantastic community and a good outlet. And I am primarily focused now on 1911, 2011, basically 1911 derivatives, single stack, double stack, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And that's my strength. And that's where I have the most to offer our community as a whole, because there's a lot of other folks who I follow for my own purposes to see them reviewing optics and Glocks and things like that. I could do it too, but again, I'm not as uniquely qualified to do that as I am to do work with 1911 related guns.
Mm,
Very
interesting.
cool.
Well, so in this particular market, are you seeing that 1911s, at least with modern production in 1911s and 2011s, are they becoming more viable for somebody to get into, uh, like they would like a Glock or whatever other derivative? I guess I was going to say Sig, but that's probably not
Ooh, snap.
not the good
Probably
one.
not.
That's
Probably
yeah,
not
that's
Sig.
that's a prickly one right now in the current market. I'm not touching that whole
I know.
thing.
I see a lot about the
Um,
GTOs, but I still I don't know, man. I don't think I care enough to try.
yeah, there's a lot of brand damage, and again, likewise, I am also not interested. Um, and I haven't seen very much market penetration for those in, the club matches and such that I go
Yeah.
to, in at least, in this Florida area. So back to your question, though, are 1911 derivative guns? So for listeners, new listeners especially, if you hear us referring to 1911 during the talk tonight, we are going to be generically referring to anything that's derived from the original single stack 1911. So something with a hammer and thumb safety and a straight back trigger. So it could be the single stack, it could be many calibers, and it could be um, double stack, generically known as 2011, which is a trademark of Staccato 2011 LLC. um, no affiliation with this podcast or to any performance. So
It's
yes, I
very
do
poignant.
think.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah. But I do think generically the modern production guns are a lot more viable for a new shooter, a new enthusiast to get into, because I think most of the market right now is driven by people who grew up on Glocks, for example, generically, and I think that's a reasonable statement. Grew up on a plastic service pistol, um,
Yeah.
Yeah, it
and
is.
are now discovering the joys of a 1911 type gun with its awesome trigger and the ergonomics and all that stuff. So by and large, yes. Is it a free ride as far as what people think it is, where you can just throw parts on willy-nilly and that kind of thing? No, it is not the Lego plug and play system that a Glock is. And again, I'll use Glock most of all because really, if you're into the gun space and you don't have a Glock, my question is why not? Because it's kind of the universal, yeah, pistol. Everyone should have one.
Yeah.
It's good for so many things. But there's a lot of different guns that are available in the 1911, 2011 type space that are awful close or totally viable as they come, so you can start getting to work and enjoying them. So it's not like it was in, like, when I started in the 80s, where you weren't even sure if the gun was going to work when you got it out of the box, and that was a reasonable
Yeah.
assumption. Is it going to work? I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, it definitely seems like there's a lot more manufacturers that you can take a gun from a box and put a magazine in it and generally just go out and shoot it.
Yeah,
Wherein
yeah.
Yeah.
you it used to feel like you were buying like a frame and a slide and a barrel, and it was like, all
Yes.
right, well now kind of start from there. Whereas, I mean, Kevin just recently got in, and I don't want to take your thunder, Kevin, but I kind of introduced that you purchased your first 1911.
Yes, Kevin, tell us about it. Since we
Yes.
Um,
told you you needed one on the last time I was on with you guys.
well, it's funny. It's funny that you say that, Hilton, because I took inspiration directly from your recommendation,
Hmm.
and I did do some of my own very limited independent research, and I settled on the Springfield Operator 4 1/4 commander size. It was a gear pack from Springfield. I think I
Hmm.
bought it from Brownells, but it was a gear pack. It came with a crappy red dot, a Viridian dot that's a piece of garbage. It already broke once, and this is the
Oh,
second iteration of a.
oof.
Yeah, but the gun itself runs flawlessly. I've had
Awesome. Awesome.
one. I think I've had 3 stoppages. 2 were out of battery, slight out of
Then it's
batteries.
not flawless. Don't mix up the words.
All right,
It
it's
has been
not.
running very well.
You could
It's
say acceptably, if depending
Yes,
on
there
what
you
you
go.
find
There you
acceptable.
go.
90% of my experience has been positive.
Words mean things, Kevin.
Word, yes, precision in language.
Well, that is
Well, I like that.
90%
That's
of
good.
my has been positive. It's run everything. It's run most everything.
Well, what would be your
I
round
put
count,
into.
and what's the failure rate on that round count?
The round count is somewhere between 12 and 14. I
Rounds
just
or 100?
100, 12 to 1400. Failure has been one.
Okay.
Wait, you just
Then,
okay.
wait, you just said several.
Wait, I thought you said
No,
I thought you said a few.
well, I had one failure to extract, and then the other two were it went into battery, but it didn't completely go into
Those
battery.
are
So
still
So you
it's
had
stoppages.
three failures.
Yeah,
all
You've
right.
those
So
had
are
all
three
right.
okay.
failures in between 12 to 1400 rounds. So I keep a frighteningly meticulous round counts on my guns, not approximately. Like Bryce can attest to this. When I do, hey, I did a review. How
They're
many
exact
rounds?
numbers.
Same.
Yeah.
1,462.
Yep.
So
I
there
always
is
thought that was
something
really
to
impressive.
that. Yeah, sometimes it is tiresome because if I'm shooting multiple guns, they each have a little tally sheet and the mags that are
Yeah.
set aside. Like even if they're
So
the three of the same platforms, like no, those three magazines are only for that first gun sitting there. The center stack of magazines only goes with this gun. But I pride myself on being
I
very
started
meticulous. There you go. There you
I
go.
started in meticulous, and then I just started buying bulks of ammo, just running it through. So
No, I get it. I mean, I don't expect everyone else to be as compulsive as I do. But when you look at statistics, if you're reading someone's report and they say, I had
yeah,
approximately 1,000 incidences of firing and maybe 10, this versus, hey, I fired 1,173
right, precision.
rounds and I had
Yeah,
three failures to extract, one failure to return to battery, and one incident of the magazine falling out spontaneously or something like that. Then you go, oh, okay, person number two is paying attention. And this is the one I want to read. So hence my model.
Well, I think more data is power, and then you can figure out what's going on. It's probably a good thing to
Absolutely.
know in general.
Absolutely.
That's actually kind of interesting. I've had a similar, and not as identical failure rate, but I'm probably at a similar round count. It's probably closer to 1,200. But I've had exactly two stoppages. One was an actual sort of like I guess linear stovepipe, and then the other was a failure to go into battery. But I'm also pretty sure some of that may have been Cerakote getting kind of gummy because it has
Yeah,
not done that
I
since.
that
It
was my
it
thought
really is
too.
kind of gooey when it's new because I noticed that with my sample guns, they were
Yeah,
sticky and yet they had to be pretty wet. And that is a thing with, I mean, it's paint. It's thick paint in the scheme of things.
yeah.
It's a high-tech paint, and but it is ultimately paint, and it's a thick layer on a gun.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better because I'm like, man, because it when I first got now, I mean, tightness on a 1911 is, I mean, I don't know how much people really need to put in like stock into that, but it's definitely looser now than it
Mhm.
was when I first got it. But it also feels smoother. Like it doesn't feel as,
Like worn
I
in.
guess, encumbered. Yeah, it feels more
Mhm.
worn in. It is a little louder though. I will say it rattles a little bit
But
more,
I mean,
but
that's like the
whatever.
difference between a 1911 and a Glock, because a Glock, round one, round 500, it's usually about the same feeling.
Yeah.
1911, the first couple hundred rounds for me were like, working it in, and then now it's like butter. Yeah,
We'll say this definitely needed a little bit more lubrication initially, but it doesn't. I'll be honest, I seem to lube it more recently just because I really like how it feels when I ride this. So
There
it
you
What
was
go.
more like this feels really good. I like playing with it.
speaking of lubrication, what would be the lubrication maintenance cycle of a
Oh,
1911?
um, honestly, as far as lubricating it, maybe every 200, 250 rounds, 500 rounds. Kind of depends on your lube and your gun and your ammo too. Because not to be evasive, but if you shot really clean ammo in a gun that didn't, the Cerakote had already worn off in the high spots and you weren't basically working through a sludge of Cerakote on a super tightly fit gun, those are factors. or if you had, let's say, a gun that was had a PVD finish, on there, like an ion bond or something like that, and nothing was coming off and it was already very slippery, maybe that gun could go, 500 rounds, or maybe even 1,000 rounds between lubrication if you're shooting real clean ammo. But if you got some super dirty ammo and it looks like the inside of your chimney after 200 rounds, whole different show.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's funny you say it because I about every 200 rounds or so, I take it home and I'd wipe it off, and because I usually mentally, just me mentally, I can get 300 rounds, then I'm just mentally dead. I'm just like, no.
yeah. And it's one of those things where the gun will tell you what it needs. If you're feeling and it feels sludgy and slow, then put some oil on it or clean it or something. I think there's too much of a like some kind of bizarre internet badge of honor is like, oh, I didn't clean my gun for X,
Yeah,
number of rounds.
yeah,
Like,
that's crazy.
what if we were into cars and somebody said, check it out, I bought this new, whatever, my new car. I haven't changed the oil in 10,000 miles. Um,
Yeah,
and I think I'm going to go 50,000 without changing the oil. I was like, why? That's stupid.
indeed.
What are you
Bryce,
Just
trying to,
get all the
thoughts?
who are
metal
you
wiring on
impressing?
the tires.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who are you impressing?
Mine is more out of neglect. I just forget. Mine isn't. I have a bet because Kevin was always like, "Oh, you don't want to clean your guns." I'm like, "No, I just by the time I get home and then I download my stuff and my son is screaming at me, I'm like, yeah, I'll just do it later." And then never comes, which is
Yeah,
terrible. But
yeah,
I will
happens.
say I did clean this thing at 1,000 rounds because I was like, hey, I have to take pictures of it. So it's the only reason
I
I cleaned this gun.
There you
Yeah,
go.
and I will say, taking apart a 1911 for the first time, I did watch the shaky YouTube video quite a few times, and I was like, wait a minute, why am I doing this wrong? Why am I doing this wrong? It took it. I've since have become more proficient, but the
Yeah,
first
very
couple of
good.
times were not as easy as taking little two pens off of a slide and ripping the slide off.
Yeah, it's not like taking a lock apart. And that's just one of those things where if you're really talking about a pistol being something of a more modern design, there's obviously huge benefits to something like a Glock where there's only what's it come apart into slide frame barrel and a captured recoil spring assembly, and you're done. Nothing's going
Yeah.
to fly away into the wilderness. You're not going to drop something off the edge of the table and forget it. There's
Yeah.
only that many parts, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, the one thing talking about things that could fly away is actually more of a positive. I didn't know how much I'd actually like the reverse plug and the
Mhm.
not having a full length guide rod in terms of 1911 disassembly. I really like not having to deal with a fucking bushing so
Oh yeah,
much.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my god, because I
It's
do
not fun.
unlock it before I rotate the bushing because
Hmm.
I don't want to like wear on the or the locking surfaces, but it's so easy. It's so
Yeah, yeah,
convenient.
yeah,
It feels
yeah.
almost modern, like as modern as a
Almost,
1911
yeah.
can be.
Well, and you think about there's no other
It's
designs that still exist that have a barrel bushing. Not certainly. I know somebody's gonna go, oh, what about? And honestly, I can't think of one. The bushing
What
is
about
so
that
just a,
gun we're
confused.
not thinking? What about that gun we're not thinking of?
yeah. I don't know. It doesn't matter because it's kind of irrelevant. No new designs coming out with a barrel bushing. They'll have um, a barrel with no bushing, and all the newer 1911 related designs have cone barrels because that all that space that's air inside the gun, you could fill it up with a heavy barrel that's doing some work for you to absorb recoil rather than just having
Mm,
space and
Yeah.
then interfacing with a barrel bushing, neither of which are doing as much work for you.
That makes it was interesting. My boss the other day was asking me why because he was at or we were talking about barrel setups on 1911s, and I was telling him I think a more modern 1911 would have a cone barrel, and I was telling him I think in terms of parts simplicity, it's superior. You get more static
Hmm.
weight, but
Hmm.
that's a much better. That's a good point too. Maybe I should I'll amend my statement, but that's a good point on that.
so what is wait why do 1911s have pushing barrels?
That was just that was the technology that was available at the time. Um,
Mm, eh,
uh, Back 100, 415 years ago, a way to unify all the parts at the front, capture a spring guide, basically get all the parts crammed in there. That worked out, and it was a way to control the diameter at the front of the barrel relative, or at the basically at the front end of the gun. You could uh, control the different dimensions there with the different parts and have them interchange. It was just a manufacturing methodology that seemed to make sense. But you figure Browning's next major design and his last one, the Browning High Power,
Yeah.
that he didn't even get to finish, didn't have a barrel bushing either. So
Well, it had one. It sort of had one. The early Mark Ones had one in the slide, but I mean,
yeah,
it
yeah, it was
was
turned
a
in.
gunsmith removal. It wasn't.
Right, right.
Yeah, it wasn't like
Yeah.
a user serviceable one. But
Yeah, and again, that was
so
another way to simplify, um,
mm,
having a internal diameter of the barrel, oh, sorry, internal diameter at the front of the slide as desired. Again, then you crank out a bushing from the inside, but yeah, not a user service item.
Nice.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's also interesting that it started out with an internal extractor, and then they were like, "Oh wait,
Yeah,
put it on the outside with a pin. It's easier."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
It went back and forth. There are different iterations if you look at Browning's earlier designs. And these days, I've kind of atrophied a lot. I was, some of the books behind me, I was in a lot of history stuff that I was into on the 1911s. And I kind of got out of knowing which serial number range and which year some of the stuff was. I was super, super into it. It's not really as valuable. But if you look at his early designs, he had internal spring-loaded extractors, and then during the Army trials, they wanted him to change it. And
Yeah, it was the
ultimately,
1909 or 10.
yeah,
interesting.
That's right. I
yes.
forgot about that.
So had that not been different, we could have been without the internal extractor all along, but
Yeah.
was not to be until now, or until more
Wow.
Well, I think
recently.
did the 1910 have a thumb safety, or was that specifically for the 1911? Because I know the grip safety was there.
Right. I think there was a version without. Yeah, now you're getting into some of the part that I let the stuff, history stuff I let atrophy.
some
But
of
yeah, there
some
was
of the
an
fuzzy.
iteration that didn't have a thumb safety, and then it got added. Because man, you think about that, like how scary that would be having a 1911 that had only a grip safety.
Well, okay, so they
With a free floating
Wilson
firing
Combat
pin.
sort of just did that
Hmm.
with that
Yeah, I saw that in the
weird
bulwark.
thing,
Bulwark.
which is interesting. They really because I imagine that's still using the PPQ mags because it's 15 round mags, but they really
Yeah, as far as the tube, it is apparently has similarities to or commonality in the tube overall with their X9 family, but
mm,
it
Hmm,
has the mag catch slot in a different location.
okay. So
interesting.
it's interesting to me. I wonder if eventually they're going to be doing 2011 stuff because they just bought Guncrafter. So I wonder
Mm,
if they'll because I believe Guncrafter their double stack standardized on 2011 mags,
I
not
think so.
some weird
That
off the wall
yeah, that'd be
one.
interesting if they start to break into the 2011 market.
Well, it'd be
Yeah, because
interesting. Yeah.
but I mean, do you find any? Do you is that does that something that you would be interested in testing in terms of like your market, like as a higher quality concealed carry metal framed single action ish thing? Is that something that you'd ever be interested in?
Which
Hmm.
the current bulwark
The
or the
bulwark, yeah, the bulwark or the
probably
X9.
not. No, because I think I mentioned or I discussed it in the comments section. Someone asked on Patreon if about somewhere along the line, and I said that those are very high quality. Both of the guns in question here, the X9 and the Bulwark, are very high quality. They're very interesting in terms of honestly just the bravado, manufacturing bravado, just to go, hey, we're doing a whole new gun from the ground up,
Yeah,
including magazines. Like, holy smokes, bravo, bravo. However, the amount of market penetration, and I'm not saying it in some kind of mean, like petty catty kind of way, because they're obviously the big boys on the block. But
yeah,
I've only ever seen one of those Wilson X9 series guns in the wild, a total of one. I had one student who used to come to my classes multiple times, good dude, came to my South Florida classes when I was down there. teaching, and he was the only one I've ever seen. I've never seen one at a match, and I've been to a lot of them in the last year. Um, it's a pretty reasonable cross section of people who are doing those kind of things. And during the time that I attend classes, I've never seen one. So I don't
Okay.
know where they go. So in terms of testing one, I think that would be a hard sell because no one else would have seen one either, or not
Yeah.
Yeah.
enough people.
Right.
And that would be a pricey test as well.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. Well, in terms of guns that you are seeing, I mean, are you seeing these bull armories? Are you seeing prodigies? Are you seeing Kimber 2K11s? I mean, like the more mid-range, lower end 2011s?
Um, I do see some prodigies, see a lot of staccatos, pretty much every variation, a lot of the P, a few HDs, um, Masterpiece Arms, Atlas.
Mm,
I don't think I've seen any bull armor. I know they're out there and they're quite popular, but honestly, I don't think I've seen them. The tough thing is that they're hard to pick out because they kind of look a lot like everything else because
yeah.
those, they're pretty. Uh, they're 2011 shaped,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Israelis
so
just
That's
really
fair.
like paramags.
yeah, I don't quite
I don't get
understand that.
that.
That's unfortunate because their guns are pretty well regarded for their price point, but
Yeah.
they're not something that I've become specifically interested in. Again, also because they have what appears to me, anecdotally, to be a relatively somewhat limited market share. So,
Mhm.
but back to your question, starting to see more of the Kimbers, and I do see some prodigies, but my club is somewhat skewed. I do see a lot of Masterpiece arms
Yeah.
and Atlas guns,
Yeah.
Okay.
but also
Nice.
a lot of people are shooting carry optics disproportionately in this area versus if we're looking at the two divisions, carry optics is a lot more common than limited optics up here.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Okay. Okay. Well, so I know people may not know you're actually going to be working on a prodigy coming up,
That's
and,
right.
and kind
That's
of one
right.
of your more interesting series is definitely go follow him. He
Oh.
he does all kinds of he tinkers on guns, he answers questions. His content is pretty well unparalleled. But so what
Thank you.
going into that is it you're very welcome. Are you is it because people are more interested, or do you hear better, I mean, better stories about prodigies? Because I know when they first released, they had teething problems, which most
Indeed.
products do.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they had some pretty significant problems on the at the 2022 launch. I had bought from Gunbroker uh, one each of the 5 and the 4.25 inch guns and had tested them. Off the top of my head, I don't remember which one fared better in its stock condition, but I ended up tweaking both of them and got both of them to run acceptably. But they definitely had some issues. I didn't love the magazines in general. Um, I mean, they're okay, and I know that the ultimately, as you know, in hindsight, the Prodigy was introduced as a sort of a price point gun. Not, I hate to say budget because but it's at a certain price point. It's below the price point of,
Yeah,
for
relative to other
example,
2011s.
Yeah.
relative to like a staccato, which I consider they basically defined the current market as we know it. So that would be the bar, whatever their price is. The Prodigy is listed and comes in at a lower point. So then I had a couple of the 2024 guns that I ordered, and they were fine. I did the function testing, and then basically, things kind of imploded for me schedule wise, so I didn't do much more. I
Mm.
did the function testing, and they were fine, and they didn't have
Yeah.
the disconnector hitch, and they were a lot nicer. And then I just bought the new test gun, and I've got some footage in the can for Patreon. And this gun is so much nicer than even the 2024 gun. So it's one of those things where I wanted to get something more current out for people who actually want to listen, because largely
Yeah.
the internet saw planted its flag on the Prodigy in 2022 and basically has put on the blind, not even blinders, like a blindfold, a very opaque one, and are, as the internet goes, is unwilling to receive new information about it. So
Well,
I
Tis.
will
it's
I'll
interesting
Tis.
you
It
say
test
is.
it.
that. I was firmly in that camp. I didn't know. I guess I wasn't aware that Springfield has been addressing changes. I mean, they have been updating the gun, and with
Hmm.
my new job, I have access to a lot of the iterative changes between the
Yeah.
generations of
Okay. Yeah.
prodigies. So, I mean, I can pick up an older one. I mean, just even now that they're using, because I believe they have the machine safeties now. They're coming
Yes.
on the, so they have
Yeah.
machine, like it just in general. I mean, the safety fits fine, but in terms of quality parts, they feel like they're being improved. I mean,
Hmm.
I got to tell you, the guns shoot great. The triggers are great. I mean, the guns feel a lot better. I mean, night and day difference than when they were
Yes.
first launched.
Hmm.
So
Agreed.
Yeah, it's always nice to see them gain progressively better.
now I
Yeah.
will say I
There.
haven't shot a lot of the 4-inch guns, but the 5-inch gun, I've almost bought a couple times. That gun's fun to shoot, especially with like an MJD grip. Oh,
Yeah.
chef's kiss.
Yeah, the 5-inch gun is really nice. I enjoyed the 4 1/4, and back when I was testing, that was kind of what I was into. And
Hmm.
lately, the 5-inch gun really speaks to me even more. And yeah, so I looking forward to testing. It's getting squeezed in. I do, like I said, I have some of the work already in the can for Patreon that'll be getting out, and trying not to drive myself crazy with review projects to take myself off of, off track what I'm doing. So I squeeze them in as I can, and it keeps me happier because I've been doing this stuff for a really long time, and I gotta very carefully guard against burnout because it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, are you gonna be switching it up with 2011 and 1911s and trying to get into like different single action 9 millimeters, or is it just are you able to stop yourselves from being burned out playing in the same sandbox, as it were?
Right, right. Yeah, that's a fair question. Well, as far as single stack guns, basically, I've gone through all the different iterations of the brands that I had any interest in, and now I'm also at a unique, if not awkward, spot where my reviewing certain single stack guns becomes potentially a conflict of interest based on my having a production single stack gun right now. So, um,
Interested.
so yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and I would totally understand if people are like, well, you really can't or shouldn't review, stuff like that. And it's like, that's fair. Um, as you know from being around my work, I'm not easily swayed by anything, even, at this point of having, my own gun or whatever. So if something else was nice and or bad or whatever, I'd give it its fair shake. But my bandwidth is so limited now, and for myself, it's one of those, like, for the first time in probably my entire career around this stuff, that I have some bandwidth for myself to go shoot and compete. That's what I've always enjoyed. Since I was a kid, and now I have the be able to devote full attention um,
That's nice.
for myself. So the work will always be there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but
So
I
when you're
think
when you're
there's a lot of
talking
yeah. Go ahead.
oh, so when you're talking competing for people that may not know, you're talking USPSA
That's right.
specifically?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And you're doing mostly carry optics?
I'm shooting limited optics.
Okay.
I had
Oh,
shot the
interesting.
last calendar year. I shot for a full year with Staccato HD series, primarily the P4. Last year, I'd shot a total 26,000 rounds through the HDs, over 20,000 through a pair, combined through a pair of P4s, and probably about 4 or 5,000 through a P4.5. And I got to the point where I was like, I think I've done as much as I can, and to me, I wanted to one, I wanted to see where else I could go with a different gun, and also fortuitously, Kimber had very kindly sent me that 4 1/4 inch Pro Comp, the ported gun, and when I was testing it, I was like, hey, I should shoot it against that 5-inch one from last year. Then I got that one out, and I was like, holy smokes, why have I not been shooting this thing? Because I was just crushing with it. And granted, when I tested it last year, I was in a wildly different skill level uh, place than I am right now. In fact, even looking when I look back at some of the older review videos for Patreon or whatever, watching me shoot, even ones from 4 or 5 months ago, I look at them and go, "What? No." So I tell people I'm at this point um, at my highest skill level with a pistol that I've ever been in my entire life. And that's really just from really delving into USPSA for the last year.
So
Very
are
cool.
you, I mean, is the lion's share of your trigger presses, I mean, obviously you're shooting a lot of live fire, but I mean, are you planning around dry fire in terms of like how like presentations are drilled, or are you
Yeah.
just or do you have a set goal that you're going after?
Uh, in broad strokes, let me work on that backwards. So I do between 30 to 60 minutes of dry fire at least 5 times a week. Um, if I can get it every day, it would be cool, but sometimes a rest is nice. Um, and actually, what I do for rest is use the ACE VR system. I used to
I
use it
was
a
going to
lot
ask you
more.
about that in a little bit.
Yeah, I used to use it a lot more, and I did a pretty lengthy video on it for Patreon, analyzing really granularly my experience with it. And what I used it today to work on stage planning and mental preparation because I really um, was dissatisfied with how I fared relative to the mental game on Saturday's match. So
Okay.
that it's still a useful tool, but and it's a supplement. It's not a substitute for dry practice. So I use it as that, and also if it's just gross outside because Florida summer.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'll think of something to work on. But dry practice usually specifically consists of working with my gun and the rig and all that stuff. And I have skill specific things that I work on. The raw mechanical skills. I will break down a day where um, certain days I will do just uh, core mechanics like a draw and fire or draw and present, perhaps a step, turn, draw and present, pick it up off the table, draw and present, or present, load it off the table, kind of things. But very core fundamental skills, and then a reload. Did I already say that? Basically drawing and reloading in every permutation possible, and basic transitions from maybe a static position to transitioning between targets. I will use both miniaturized targets, some that are stuck to a wall, and then other times mounted to stands. So I actually have a focal plane change and actually physically wide transitions. And then I'll alternating days of dry practice. I'll set up little mini stages like in the garage or driveway or whatever with those little targets on the miniaturized or full size targets on stands. So I'll work on actual physical movement. Hey, I'll move into this position and engage these targets, or move while I engage these, that kind of thing. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah, pretty intricate. So when I hear folks say, "Oh, I try to dry fire and then I get bored after 5 minutes," like, well, okay, but maybe if you do more different things, you'd engage you.
Yeah.
Because even after um, doing 30, even 60 minutes, a lot of times, like, oh man, I still wanted to work on such and such because there's all these different skill sets I want to work on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and just keep me engaged. But usually it's because I'm smoked. It's physically, I do it in a hyper athletic manner.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I tell people they should be gripping the gun like the gun's going to be your arms should be sore after you're
Hmm.
done. Like you should be
Hmm.
holding the gun like you've been shooting. That I
Absolutely.
feel like people do a lot of disservice by just kind of like holding the gun, just kind of like, yeah, it's not going to
Will
go off.
will
No, it's
will
it's going to.
willy nilly.
Yeah, I feel like that's more detrimental than any drive. You're kneecapping yourself. You're dry firing, but wrong. It's not helping.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
I was good. I have a question.
Yes.
Well, I have
Yes,
more of a
Kevin.
statement that poses itself into a question,
I love that.
if
I
I
have a
may.
question on my own podcast. I have a
Yes.
question.
Well, I have to, Bruce. We've been over this. If I don't do
I
it,
know.
then
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go on. Continue.
I was gonna say when they started shooting the 1911 or the operator, I noticed I was overdriving the pistol because I'm so used to just light polymer pistols that I would push it down more. I had to kind of over the course of 1,200, 1,300 rounds try and let the pistol just do what it wants to and the recoil it wants to do and not put too much input into it. You know,
Mhm.
is that like a common thing, or is that just me when people
It's
switch from like Glock to you know anti-alerts?
well, yeah, learning the inputs you need to put into a gun is definitely a thing. And well, first of all, do you find yourself applying too much input with your shooting hand or your support hand?
Support.
Okay. Um, hmm, that's of interest because Um, usually people put in too much input with their shooting hand and they're
Yeah,
driving the gun down into their support side.
yeah,
So, but either way, providing the correct input is something you need to learn and sort of, physically, like kinesthetically catalog. You we would call it muscle memory. Uh,
yeah. Over
yeah.
over the course, I've noticed I'm getting more proficient. It's just
Mhm.
that first initial couple hundred rounds, I was like, whoa, like that's completely different than featherweight, comparatively speaking, featherweight,
Mhm.
plastic gun.
Sure. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, for sure.
segueing into my question, it came with these really crappy Springfield mags. Don't
Mhm.
squint too hard because they're terrible. And
Okay. Oh, well, it was off to the side of the screen because we're on these little verticals. Yeah, I see
uh,
it. Yeah, it's the 9 round factory. They function well, but they're unexciting.
they're
And
unexciting, and it's already starting to kind of like rust a little bit from the sweet
we
Florida
are in
smoke.
Florida.
Yep,
If you stare
I
too
oiled
hard at
it.
something,
I oiled
yeah,
it before you say anything. I got home. I oiled it with CLP. I
You
let it
oiled the
sit for.
magazine?
Yeah, to keep it from
wipe down.
rusting.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to keep the
That sucks.
rust at bay.
No, no,
It's
I
summer in
believe you.
Florida.
Yeah.
Summer in
What
Florida.
mag? What mags would
I
you
actually
recommend? That was my question.
Okay. Yeah, I get that a lot, and actually, I need to add it to the resource page on the website because I basically just answer that like a few times a week. Um, so uh, I have used the Wilson. These are current manufacturer, not like, oh, you need to go back and on eBay and find stuff from
Yeah,
2010. It's
yeah.
just the
Give
current.
me
Yeah. Uh,
the
the
unobtainium.
the Wilson ETM 10 round, full size magazine, and they currently have steel followers. Um, those work well. And then I have two others that I'm working on, and I haven't had that much bandwidth to shoot them. Uh, what's that one? Oh, it's a Wilson. Yeah.
Vickers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the
So
Vickers ones.
I blanked out. Oh, the Chip McCormick. I forget what it's called because there's so many model names, the Chip McCormick mags.
So
It's a
for the
10
nine
round
mils,
extended tube. Yeah, the 9 millimeter specifically.
their power, I think it's like their power rail. I don't think they
Yeah,
have
the
them.
railed power mag.
I think they only have
Right.
the range ones now. I don't think they
Yeah.
make the railed for the nines anymore.
Okay. Yeah, whatever is their current, and again, I apologize. I don't remember the name of that one. The one,
Yeah.
though, that I think is going to be the winner, I just got them and I did a bunch of reloads with them and didn't get to shoot them yet, is the new Mekgar 10 round. And specifically, the reason is because if you look at them, the Mekgar has the top of it is tapered into the 9 millimeter shape. So if you look at a regular, like the magazine kind of you got
I
in front of you, it is a tube with creases and then all these basically square jabby things at the top. So when you're doing a speed reload, all those surfaces are trying to smash themselves and catch on things, whereas
Yeah.
the top of the Mekgar is actually tapered into a 9 millimeter shape for the feed lips, which is
Actually,
very
it's funny
clever.
that that might be. I think that reminds me of like the old 9 mil mags that came with the Tauruses, where they had like a bit of a taper, but they also
Okay.
didn't work. So
Yeah.
I don't really know if it's the same
Okay.
thing. But
Well,
either
these,
way, it's
yeah, I have great
interesting.
faith in Mechars. I haven't said much about them because, again, I wanted to test them, but
It's
they are
interesting.
very promising
hmm.
because they reload really well. And if you're shooting a single stack gun, reloading it a lot is something you need to be able to do.
But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that is one
I
thing
learned that the
on
hard way.
that is one thing on this TRP. I like that it's an untreated magwell, so it's not beveled. So it's square, and then the entire magwell is just a bolt on. So you can chew this unit up all you want and then just replace it, which is
Yeah.
really cool because I've already like chewed it. I mean, it's getting chewed up pretty well,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I mean,
mine got pretty ate up.
What
so I like that.
what ball ammo or what ball ammo and what JHPs do you use for training and
For nine,
competition? Yeah, for
for nine.
nine.
Um, I like for ball ammo, Blazer 124 has been pretty good. I have a obscene amount of Blazer 115, but it's not very good. And it has varied so wildly in consistency. I swear, logically, they should be produced on on similar lines, but they don't seem to be. I don't know
Yeah,
why. I also like Federal American Eagle 115. That has been quite consistent, real clean, shoots well.
Yeah.
S&B 115. There's so many kinds, but you're right. You're right to ask because not, especially with 45, not all that ball is the same. Some of them are even the wrong shape,
mhm,
and you're like 230
yep,
ball. Oh yeah, wrong shape, wrong length, and they
Yeah.
might not work at all.
Yeah, I
Uh,
got my hands on some Spearman Lawman 115 grade.
yeah, yeah, that's solid. Sometimes it's
Hornady
a little hot
115.
though.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
the
Lawman's pretty
lawman's a little,
spicy.
yeah,
definitely. Yeah, definitely felt
unnecessarily hot. Yeah.
well,
For jacket hollow points, Spirit Gold Dot, Gold Dot 2,
Yeah,
Hornady,
yeah.
Critical Duty 135. Those are the ones that I usually go with. Federal HST, basically all the common law enforcement rounds because they're the easiest to ultimately find and
So
they're
not federal
well
aluminum.
I
tested. No.
not federal. I got a little bougie one that got Black Hills 9
Mhm.
millimeter 124 grade.
Black Hills is
The,
excellent ammunition.
and all this that ran through it. The operator spear ran through it. Everything I put through it has is just ate it up. Num 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 num
Awesome.
num num num.
Awesome.
So my gun has only had 2 stoppages, and the stoppages occurred. So I replaced the firing pin because the titanium firing pin didn't want to play ball. So the steel
Okay.
cracks all the surplus stuff, a bunch of weird Serbian stuff. It just didn't want to
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
Yeah, hard
I didn't
primers
have it.
can be tough.
Yeah. So I swapped the firing pin, works just fine. However, the only I think the with the exception of the out of battery, the actual stoppage that I had was federal aluminum.
Oh dear. Yeah, and
It's
that's
I
something
will
that's
admit,
worth. Okay.
yeah, I will admit that my TRP it works. It'll feed an empty case. Like I put a magazine of empty cases in and just cycled it. It's great. It's beautiful. I love it. It's gorgeous. I love that. However, it is an absolute sprinkler with 115 grain aluminum.
Oh dear.
It's so funny. It'll eject left hand.
No,
Because
that's
it's
no good.
well, I was actually thinking because I'm really cheap, I was gonna just get like a lighter recoil spring if I'm only shooting that out of it. I was like,
Hmm.
I might do that, but I
Wow.
do shoot 147 grain HSTs out of it too, and that wouldn't be super fun with a much lighter recoil spring.
Yeah,
So
fair, fair.
probably
What
just
up?
gonna leave it
You're
or
not
just
wrong
deal
though
with
with
it.
changing the recoil spring if you got a lot of that ammo or whatever it speaks to you.
Yeah.
Because I just thought of it that I have I think 3,000 rounds of Blazer 100 grain, which is super fun because it like they practically kind of dribble out of the. I think they
Yeah.
made it as a PCC load because you need the 16 inches of barrel or whatever
Yeah, I
Yeah,
to
that's
got
get
pretty
you.
it
cool.
to get it needs a running start. But
Yeah.
with pistol, if you can get it to cycle, it's super fun to shoot. But I would totally, get like a lighter spring just for the sake of burning that up. Also, because it's taking up space that better ammo could be occupying in my pile.
Yeah. That was
Hmm.
one thing with this gun is I'm coming from polymer guns for shooting those for so long. I went back to this and it didn't work with crappy ammo, and I'm like, oh, I'm mad at it. And then I'm like, well, it doesn't. Is it really the gun's fault if I'm just giving it absolute trash?
Trash.
Probably not.
You know, it's funny. I didn't
So
have any light primer strikes at all.
yeah, Kevin never had a problem. I had light strikes, but I don't know.
I will
I love this
say,
gun.
I will
love
say
this
the
gun so
the
much.
failure to eject was a weird one because it fired the round and it just didn't cycle the slide at all. And I was
Was
like,
this with some kind of weird ammo
no, oh no,
or
wait, let me hold on, let me put on my thinking cap.
That was
For
Monarch.
for those at home, I'm putting my cap on. I
You
fired the
did put a
round.
cap on.
I fired the round. I fired it. Gun cycled. Did an eject. Reset the hammer. Pulled the trigger again. Click. That's why it's like I did the tap rack tap and rack.
Probably really weak ammo.
And it spit out the spent case and
Okay.
put a new round in there. It's like, whoa, that's weird.
Yeah, it
Nah,
seems like
probably
it
just
didn't
went meh.
cycle far enough to even to hit the ejector.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the only failure to eject I had, and then the other two were just
Yeah, that
failures with the
sounds very
battery.
much like an impulse issue with the ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Monarch, so I expect Monarch is like the bottom barrel. I expect that if it goes banged, I'm happy.
Yeah, so that's the thing, as we talk about ammo, there's no free ride because if the ammo's cheap, it's cheap for a reason.
Yep.
And like my complaints with Blazer 115, because I would have stuff that would chrono so different. I don't want to make up a number like from memory and be wrong, but it was wildly different. Specifically, I was trying to get it to check to see if it made a 125 power factor for USPSA, and I had some
Mhm.
stuff that made like a 130 and then other stuff that made a 120, and so
Wow.
that's a pretty significant difference. So I crack open one
Yeah.
case, chrono it, another case, and chrono it, and they'd be different. Like I can't use this.
You'd be chasing your own
I
tail.
got I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
some of this stuff too.
There you go. XTP's nice, very good,
Nice.
swanky,
Nice.
swanky.
Oh, really
They
quickly,
they make
I wanted
noise
to
just the same as the other stuff.
it, loud
You know,
noises.
you know, it's
Yes.
crazy. I figured that out.
But
Bryce,
I
you're
really
saying?
really quickly before we have to let you go, I wanted to share. I got to use my 10.8 armorer's block, which you should go pick up from 10.8 Performance because it's really
Thank you,
awesome.
thank you.
I had to finish. Unfortunately, Springfield forgot to finish the fitting the thumb safety, so it only like go like half down. So like
Okay,
I'd have to He-Man it the rest of the way. I took it out and realized they didn't finish. So I was like, I just a couple more swipes, but just
interesting.
a shameless plug for an
Well,
armorer's
well,
block.
thank you, thank you very much.
Of
Thank you,
course,
thank you.
I felt very proud. I was like, I have the tool for this.
Good work, good work. What other
Tool for
questions did you
later.
guys have slated to make sure we hit those before we sign off here?
No, I mean, Kevin, did you have anything else?
I'm racking my brain.
I think we did all the things we actually planned on asking. I'm very proud of that. Normally, that's not what happens.
Yeah, I think we've touched on most of. Let's see. We touched on the ammo maintenance cycle,
Well,
the
Kevin, if
magazine.
it makes you feel better, we can just have him back on if we just forgot. It's
Well, that would
Yeah, yeah, like
alleviate some of the
like
pressure.
write notes and
yeah, there you
yeah.
go. Yeah,
Because
so
yeah, I
yeah,
will be working on always working on new projects, and there'll be other things to
I
talk
love
about.
that. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Hilton, for coming back on. I mean, honestly, it is
No,
always a pleasure.
no,
Always a
thank
pleasure.
you
And you are
thank you for having
you're
me.
you're one of our most requested guests, by the way. That's
Really? Wow, I'm
yes, you
very
are.
honored.
Only here on the
Yes.
Carry Handle podcast, Hilton Yam requested
That's
this.
Fantastic,
well, so far,
fantastic,
yes. So, well, thank
fantastic.
you
Well,
to
thanks
the
for yeah, thank you for
yeah,
having me, guys. You guys always have
absolutely.
bring the good topics and ask the smart questions. So cool, appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Well, and thank you to the listeners for tuning in and giving us the opportunity to do any of this. It is really with
It's
you
quite
guys that
fun.
we're able to do this.
Indeed, thank
Hilton,
you.
where can the people find you?
They can find me on the gram at 108 Performance as 108 Performance, and well, no longer on YouTube, but also you can check me out on the website at 108performance.com, 10-8performance.com, and there's also a link on there to my Patreon where you can check out all the stuff that Bryce has
Highly
also been
recommended.
mentioning. Yes. So cool stuff,
Very
and then more
cool.
projects to come, and I'm not sure when I'm finished with them. So
Love to hear it. All
good
right.
stuff.
Well, thank you for
Absolutely.
tuning in. Thank you, Mr. Hilton Yam, for coming on again, and we'll catch you guys next time. Until then, talk to you guys later.
Oil your
Thank you.
guns.
Oil your guns.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Very cool. You should like and subscribe.
On Facebook and Instagram.
And Twitter and Spotify. You should listen there too. If you
Aren't they
heard this on
listening to
Spotify.
this on Spotify right now?
Well, they could be, but there's also YouTube podcasts, so all of the places.
We always forget where we post this stuff.
We don't know where this is. Thank you for listening wherever you're listening to, but you should also like the other places that we are. And
Who
then
are we and what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know how we got here. So thank you for letting us talk directly into your ear holes.
Right to the brain.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Adios.